And welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and talking about topical issues. And we have a guest today who's coming on our show for the very first time.
Yes, Eunice Khoury is going to come on and talk about a well-preserved life. In other words, how people of senior years can do the right things perhaps before they're seniors to make sure that their life is the best it can be. And she's very enthusiastic, energetic about what she does, and we're looking forward to having her on.
Should be an interesting show. Stay with us. You're watching The Verdict, and we'll be right back.
I remember walking into the academy and seeing the Highway Patrol core values, the professionalism, the courage, the bravery, integrity. And I realized that those are some of the same qualities that I was taught by my grandmother that the Chickasaw Nation valued in their people. We had received calls of heavy, heavy rain. I mean, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. We had seen the white pickup truck with the two elderly people in it. There was no means of escape. And looking down at these people, you could see the terror in their eyes, and we knew we had to make a move or these people would probably die. And I reached down and grabbed their arm to help pull them up. I remember thinking, these people are gonna live, this is gonna work out. I appreciate this citation, but that's what we do. That's what we're expected to do. I'm glad that I was able to carry on that tradition of bravery and courage under strife.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma Realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a flood nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
And welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really pleased to have Eunice Khoury join us. She is a radio talk show host on KTOK with her show Well Preserved, which airs at 7 a.m. on Saturday mornings. She grew up in Arkansas, was in business over there, has some real estate background as well as restaurant business background, moved to Oklahoma City in 1989. And she began a group insurance business with primary emphasis on senior citizens and assisting them not only from a business standpoint but otherwise in having a well-preserved life. And we thought you'd like to hear from her. Eunice, sure glad to have you.
Thank you for having me here.
Since it's your first time here, give us a little bit of your background. You grew up on a farm in Arkansas. Tell us how that shaped your life.
Well, I'm telling you, learn to work. W-O-R-K is not a dirty word. My dad believed if you had a little extra time, then you had something else to do. And I guess that's followed through to today. I drive my staff nuts. If I see them not doing anything, well, I think we have something to do.
Well, you currently specialize in senior citizens insurance, Medicare, Medicare supplements, and the like. How did you decide to get focused in that area as opposed to general?
Well, number one, I love working with retirees. Their word is their bond. And I think they feel a value when I actually sit down and develop a plan for them. Insurance, insurance is kind of an unknown to people. They really don't understand how Medicare works, if they have a long-term care issue. It's really hard for them to comprehend what their full liability will be. So, just helping them build a plan to make sure that everything they work for all their life doesn't go up just in like a 30-minute catastrophe.
Well, let me ask you kind of a follow-up to that. You could have gotten into any area of the insurance business you chose, but you chose to work with seniors. Now, why'd you do that?
Actually, my dad went through a pretty serious event in his life. My husband was a banker in Arkansas. We lived in a small town, big fish in a small pond, and loved the community. It was in Conway, Arkansas, and I was there for about 10 years.
Home of Hendrix College.
Absolutely, and University of Central, well, now it's University of Arkansas at Conway, and there's a small Baptist college there.
And the Bill Clinton Presidential Library.
No, it's in Little Rock.
Oops, sorry.
It's down the road a little bit, 30 miles, but it's close. Everything's close. But anyway, my husband was a banker, and when the savings and loan debacle hit in the 80s, he participated. Actually, my ex-husband, he is a former husband, did embezzle from a bank. And the sad thing about that was my dad had his money deposited in that bank. And my dad trusted me, he trusted his son-in-law, and I probably have a huge amount of guilt over that because I never really asked my husband what he did with the money. You know, the man takes care of the household and everything. And in this particular case, I saw in as short a period as 2 years, my dad lost everything that he had worked for all of his life. My father was in his 80s. And his main goal in life was to leave a legacy for his grandchildren. That didn't happen. So, learning from that event.
What brought you to Oklahoma?
Actually, I closed the restaurant in Conway, Arkansas. I had a restaurant for like 7 years. And one of my customers, Marvin Gill, would come in on a regular basis. And he was with National Association of Self-Employed. Actually, he was one of the men that started NACE. And he said, "You can sell insurance." And I'm going, "Are you kidding? I don't understand insurance. I can't even find my insurance agent." He said, "That's why you'd be good, because you'd call people. You'd follow up with them." Long story short, I started in Oklahoma in September of 1989 with National Association of Self-Employed, and it evolved into helping retirees with Medicare and long-term care.
Well, why do retirees need help? Because aren't many under the impression that, well, the government provides this and surely there'll be whatever information and coverage I need?
Well, if they think that, they sure need to come talk to me.
Why? What's the problem?
Well, the government is not going to take care of you. You need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, the government will take care of you. And that's not a choice that, if people really understand it, that they need to make.
Is this a Medicare supplement plan? Is that what you're
A
referring to?
Medicare supplement plan. Long-term care is where people really fall short. They don't need it now, so therefore they won't need it later on. I think y'all just had an engineer here who's 52 that just recently had a stroke. Well, praise God that Cox has long-term disability for their employees, but what will that person do after 65 if he needs additional money? It doesn't cover at that point. So it's having a plan in place that will take care of you.
Now, you use the phrase on your radio show and on your website, well preserved. What is encompassed by that?
Well, I say every Saturday morning, well preserved is all about preserving your health, your wealth, and your freedom to live life the way you choose. If you don't have your health, your other two choices are going to be a little slim. So for those of you out there that are watching us today, you know, if you're thinking, I have assets here, I've worked hard, I want to be in control of what I've worked for all my life, you need to sit down and talk to a qualified advisor and get a plan of action together.
Okay, at what age should a person start doing this, in your opinion?
Okay, Dave's not listening today, all right? I really think a person should start looking at it at age 47, 50.
And why? Because that would seem early. If
does
most
seem
people
early.
think about retiring in their mid-60s, why would you start
Well, the
nearly 20 years
premiums
earlier?
are so much more affordable than when you get older. And I know Dave Ramsey, who I'm an endorsed local provider for, he says you really need to start at age 60. By age 60, I have a lot of clients that have health issues. And insurance companies will not take you if you have a health issue.
Now, a lot of people might think, this sounds great, Eunice, but I'm barely getting by now. How can I afford this? How can I afford to be so well covered?
Well, and that's where sitting down and looking at a plan, because there may be another option for people than traditional long-term care insurance. And that's my job, to just let people know what their options are.
What do you try to tell a client that you sit down with for the first time after you found out whatever pertinent information you need to know? How do you try to direct them?
Well, I have a little questionnaire that I ask every client that walks in that I have not visited with before. One of the first things I ask them is if they have a will or a trust. Do they have a durable power of attorney? Do they have a living will? And a lot of people in their 40s think, oh, I don't need something like that. And my next question is, do you have children? Okay, those are very important documents to protect your family. Do you have identity theft? This is a huge issue in America. And then looking at the insurance that they have at place, making sure that they need what they have or they don't need what they have, and letting the customer know why. Maybe they don't need to be paying for something.
Are most employer-based insurance programs covering long-term care while a person's working?
Not really. Most employer-based coverages have what is called long-term disability, which would pay a person's salary. Now, it could pay for 2 years, it could pay up to age 65. It just depends on what the employer has chosen. But as far as, say, an incident like Christopher Reeves happens, he was a young person, did not plan on having a horse throw him off, had huge medical bills. The first 2 years of his care, Robin Williams stepped up and paid for that. Christopher Reeves did not have a plan. Okay, so, you just need to have a plan.
Well, we're going to get to a break and come back,
Okay.
and we'll have more with Eunice Khoury, and we're talking about insurance and primarily for older people. We want to hear about the radio show you have on KTOK.
Okay.
Kent and I'll be back with Eunice right after this.
What if America had its own clean energy? Abundant and available for the next century or more, and possibly indefinitely. A true 21st century energy source would cut carbon emissions in half and do every living thing a world of good. That clean American energy exists. It's natural gas, and Chesapeake is its #1 explorer. For producing clean electricity and fueling our cars without imported oil, natural gas saves money and the environment. Proving the answer to this country's energy needs is right under our feet, and we're not running out. Clean, abundant, affordable, American natural gas. Doing a world of good for our communities, our economy, and our irreplaceable planet Earth.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers with our guest Eunice Khoury, and I assume there's a lot of people out there who listen to your show on KTOK and say, well, I've listened to her. This is the first time, though, that I've got to see her on television. It must be nice to meet viewers when you're out in the public and put a voice with a face.
I think one of the greatest compliments that I get when I actually meet someone, they'll say, you know, I really feel like you're on my side. And I'm going, I am, believe me, I am.
What do your callers want to know when they call up and ask you questions on Saturday mornings?
Well, you know, we have a varied amount of topics that we discuss on the radio. I've had Coach Frank Broyles on from the University of Arkansas. He has a phenomenal book about Alzheimer's care. You know, when callers call in, it's geared to whatever program we're talking about that Saturday. Mm-hmm. And believe me, retirees are very straightforward.
But there must be some topics you go back to because listener response is just so heavy. What people seem to gravitate toward on the show? What topics are they most interested in?
Well, I think one of the shows that rang the phones the most was a drug shopping show, was where we actually got on the telephone and had 4 different pharmacists throughout the city on the telephone, and someone would call in and say, okay, what's the cost on this particular drug? And that drew a lot of interest because that was before the Medicare Part D program. And it was very interesting to my listening audience that, you know, let your fingers do the walking and you could save $20 to $30 on the same medication. It was just calling around and checking. So that's about preserving your assets.
Absolutely.
Now, you operate, or at least have clients, not only in the Oklahoma City area, but around the state, do you not? In Tulsa.
Yes, I do.
Because we air in Tulsa as well as Oklahoma City.
Okay.
So you have clients all around the state?
I do, from Guyman to Miami.
How long is your radio show?
I'm on for an hour.
Hour. A lot of good information in that hour.
A lot of good information. If you're a retiree, you do need to tune in.
Well, the president's talking a lot about health care. Where's he going, and are you concerned, or are you happy about it?
I'm really concerned, and let me give you a little bit of history on this. When we look at Medicare, Medicare was actually started in 1965 by the Great Society. Lyndon Johnson inked that into legislation. Medicare was not actuarially sound when they started providing the benefit for people that were over 65 or if you're disabled. And Medicare is a good benefit, but the government does not have a good management program. Insurance companies will make a profit. They're in the business to pay benefits, make a profit. The federal government doesn't have a clue how to run an insurance industry, so my feeling is they need to let private industry stay in that and go run the government.
So you'd like to see the government stay out of health care to the extent you don't want to see them expand it?
Well, Medicare Part D started January the 1st, 2006, and having had the drug shopping programs on the radio previously, I just wanted to call around to several drugstores on January 1, 2006. Actually, we did it the following Monday after the holidays, and we checked like 4 different maintenance drugs that a lot of my customers take, 2 blood pressure and 2 that were for diabetes. Those 4 medications went up 6 to 10% just right then. Well, what that gave the pharmaceutical industry that really pushed the Medicare Part D program, it gave them a captive audience of some 40 million people in the United States that are possibly enrolled in Medicare Part D. So who's it a good deal for? Not my customer. It's a good deal for the pharmaceutical industry.
What would you do? I guess we all acknowledge that there are a lot of uninsured people without health insurance, old and young. What would you do, or what would you recommend be done to enable some of these people to be able to have health insurance or long-term insurance?
Well, and that's the sad part of our society right now. Some people just flat cannot afford it. And of course the state has programs. If you are low income, you can get your children on Sooner Care, and any child ought to be covered. So that would be an important thing. If you're older, retired, and you're on limited benefits, Then Medicaid, which is a state and federal funded program, will also cover their health insurance. The gap of people in between, you know, I've talked to people that they make $45,000 a year, but they don't see health insurance as a priority. I would much, much rather see a person with a $5,000 deductible and have some coverage on their family, because it's like I tell that consumer, we can always work out the deductible with the hospital if something happens. You're going bankrupt if you had a $50,000 health issue or $100,000. It's just looking at the person individually. It's a tough problem for our society.
Well, to the extent that the president's health proposals would lower the number of uninsured, isn't that a positive development?
Well, it depends on how you're going to pay for that. You know, socialized medicine in Canada and England, people over there have to wait to have a surgery procedure. And a good example of that, if you're 65 and you're on socialized medicine and you need, say, a heart bypass, but a person 40 needs the same surgery, the person 40 is going to get it, not the person 65, because that 40-year-old has a little more productive time to put money back in the system. So who am I to call and say the 65-year-old should not have it, or the 40-year-old? So I'm not real high on that.
What's the state of seniors in Oklahoma City? Is there anything specific about seniors in this region that you've noticed or that needs to be taken care of?
Well, we have a lot of seniors that have not planned well, and they're really getting hurt with the economy right now, because what their 401k is definitely a 101k right now, and that was their biggest resource. They may be house rich, cash poor, so they're a little short on cash right now.
And are people outliving their retirement? Do you actually see that occurring?
I do, and that's my client's biggest fear, is absolutely outliving their resources and not having freedom of choice.
Well, when you find a client sitting across from you that expresses that concern, what do you tell them?
I do a lot of research and try to find a solution to their problem. It may not totally fix the whole problem, but it's better than where they came from.
With the retirement starting now, I guess, and going to continue apace in the near future of the baby boomers, you're going to have a lot more seniors to deal with, are you not, in the next decade?
And let me tell you, baby boomers want it today. We're used to snapping our fingers and getting stuff done, but they are also good planners.
Well, so you think with the increasing retirement numbers, the need's going to be less, going to go down because of their prior planning?
I actually see people working longer. I have some people that were planning on retiring at 64. I can think of a couple of couples that I'm talking about, and they're planning on working now for another 5 years. And as soon as the market gets back to some sort of level, they're out of the market. They're no longer going to stay in something that's volatile.
What do you recommend to your clients as far as investments go?
Investments, most of my clients are older, so I'm a third and a third and a third gal. You have a third in fixed no matter what guarantees that you know will take care of you. A third may be in a risk environment. And a third of what I call lazy money, you know, money that you just have over there for your needs, which would be totally accessible at any time.
All right, we're going to have to wrap up this show,
Okay.
but Eunice, thanks for coming on and giving such great information
Thank you.
to seniors
Thanks for having
and
me.
seniors to be.
They're well preserved. They're not seniors.
Enjoy success on your radio show. Eunice Khoury with us, who has a radio show Saturday mornings on KTOK. Kent and I will have a final word right after this.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're wrapping up the show in which we discussed health care and advice for senior citizens from Eunice Khoury.
Yes, we're pleased that Eunice would join us, and you tune into her radio show on Saturday mornings on KTOK at 7 a.m.
And you can get more information at their website, or you can go to Eunice's website at wellpreserved.info. That's wellpreserved.info. And of course, if you have an idea for a show that you'd like to see discussed on an upcoming edition of The Verdict, go to our website, theverdict.tv. For Kent, I'm Mick. We'll see you next week.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.